Hello and welcome to today's daily news report, as well as ongoing stimulus package information video. If you're a subscribed member of my community, then welcome back. And if you're not, consider subscribing right now so I can keep you up to date on what's going on in Washington, D.C., the next stimulus package, the U.S. economy, money, investing, and much, much more. You're not going to want to miss that video. It's got some important information about Biden and what's going on in the Biden agenda that I think will help you with money. All right, so it seems like Senator Joe Manchin has become Senator Debbie Downer, but yesterday, for the first time, he signaled his openness towards the next stimulus package. So this is a big, big shift, right? He's been saying he won't support a $3.5 trillion price tag, but he's never said that he's officially against a stimulus package. Well, last night in an Axios interview, Senator Joe Manchin said he is open to the social infrastructure bill with a $1.5 trillion starting point. Now, a lot can be done with $1.5 trillion. In fact, the $1.9 trillion stimulus package President Biden passed earlier this year only used $1.2 trillion. So there was a ton of money left over, about $700 billion. Well, this time around, there is zero money going to the PPP program, and there is $0 going towards the federal unemployment boost as President Biden decided to end it. Now, in the sales world, this is a strategy called anchoring, where each side tries to establish their bookend, right, or their anchor point. So Manchin has basically said that he's open to something between 1.5 trillion and 3.5 trillion, right? These are the anchors. He doesn't believe they should go lower, but he also knows they shouldn't go any higher, right? So he hasn't come right out and said that, but that's what's going on, right? He's trying to sell a stimulus package with a smaller price tag. Now, I'm assuming that he's hoping it will be on the lower end, but he's going to have to fight for that package to remain small, as many progressive Democrats want it to be bigger. Now, Manchin said he supports the Biden agenda and wants to build back better, but does not want to build back more expensive. President Biden announced that he plans to host Senator Joe Manchin when he gets back to the White House so that they can discuss Senator Manchin's hangups and also Senator Manchin's ideas. Now, Manchin admitted in this same interview that he is very concerned about runaway inflation. He said, "We already have the effects of inflation, but my worry is that runaway inflation will happen by spending another $4.7 trillion. So this is just to give some context of where he's at in his thinking. Now, Pelosi disagrees with Manchin on his inflation concerns, and said that she is exhilarated by the prospect of spending this much money to transform the country. So it seems that Nancy Pelosi is fully invested and completely on board with what progressives want to do in the next stimulus package. Now, Senator Sanders, who heads the $3.5 trillion stimulus package, said, "Now is the time to enact the most consequential legislation for the working class of this country since the days of Franklin Delano Roosevelt and the New Deal. Now is the time for working class solidarity. Now is the time to finally build a government which works for all of us." So he wants to see the government transformed and it to be more focused on the working class. By the way, thank you guys so much for giving these videos a like. I really appreciate it, and I just love bringing you guys the news. All right, this is what oligarchy is all about. The billionaire class and large corporations are working overtime to defeat the reconciliation bill, the most significant legislation for working people since the New Deal. Their greed has no end. This is why we need a political revolution. So he's calling for a political revolution. It's time to push back on oligarchy. Now, oligarchy is a type of government where the wealthy and large corporations control the country, not a government elected body, right? Now, we've been seeing this and hearing about this in the news a lot. But that's what he's fighting against right now to get this package completed for the American people. Now, I think regardless of the final price tag, Senator Sanders is on a personal mission to make sure billionaires pay their fair share of taxes so that their tax revenue can be used to fund the programs he believes will transform the country. Okay, now for the flip side of our government's financial situation. According to Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen, she put out a worldwide warning to Congress that the U.S. federal government will run out of money in October if the debt ceiling isn't raised. So she said she has real concerns that the United States is going to default on their loan debt. Now, if the debt ceiling isn't raised, then the United States will default on their loans and cause a global panic. Yellen is calling for Congress to raise the debt ceiling. Republicans will see this as a way of keeping the next stimulus package honest. They will leverage their vote on the debt ceiling against the wasteful spending or overspending that could occur in the next stimulus package. Okay. Now, the $1.2 trillion physical infrastructure was mostly paid for without having to raise taxes. But the $3.5 trillion stimulus package will only be done by issuing new debt and then raising taxes to cover those massive IOUs. So there is a major difference in how the two infrastructure bills are going to be paid for. All right, now all of this is happening while President Biden is dealing with the lowest approval ratings yet. According to analysts at Goldman Sachs, the economy is slowing down and the GDP is going to be lower than expected, which means even with all of the past stimulus money pumped into the economy, it's losing air and slowing down. Now, a month ago, Goldman Sachs was singing a different tune, but with the new jobs report for August coming out at 33% of what was predicted, it's flashing a red light to Wall Street and most economists. So the country is at a pivotal time right now. The government is out of money unless they borrow more. Democrats want to spend roughly $4.7 trillion, and economists say with it all, things are still slowing down. So the country is in kind of a tricky situation right now. Now, Elise Gould from the Economic Policy Institute said she doesn't know what Democrats will do since they control the federal government. But if they go too big, it will hurt everyone. And if they do nothing, it will hurt those most in need that are banking on all of the promises that they have been making. Now, Beth Ann Bovino, the U.S. chief economist for S&P, or Standards & Poor, said the wealthy are sitting on a lot of cash, but lower income families will be hurt for a long time. So there's this real conundrum of doing too much and doing too little. And so Congress is going to have to figure out what is the proper balance in order to keep the country moving forward. Now, some economists are predicting Biden might try to pump more money to the American people to help himself and his ratings push past the Afghanistan debacle, according to one report on the Hill. Kate Bedington, a White House communications director, said the biggest issue she sees with her Democrat colleagues is they are doing very little to deal with the now problems. She loves that the way that they want to fundamentally transform the nation in the future, but is asking the question, what about right now? Now, I know from asking my community that many of you need help now, not 3 to 5 years down the road. So Miss Beddington, I believe, has hit the nail on the head. Democrats aren't answering how does this help me now questions. And she said if they don't deal with the how does this help me now situation, that they will likely it will likely come back to hurt them in the 2022. All right, now later today, Vice President Kamala Harris will be campaigning in California to help Democrat Governor Newsom avoid being recalled. Next week, President Biden will go to California to help Governor Newsom as well. However, many Republican leaders have said they wish the president and vice president would give even a fraction of the attention they are about to give Governor Newsom to the border crisis in Texas. It's like they're completely ignoring it on purpose, they say. Many Republicans and Democrats alike are saying there are too many crises happening at the same time. President Biden's honeymoon stage is over, and he will now have to sink or swim as president. No more propping him up, right? All right, now the stock market is red in many sectors today, as uncertainty has many investors pulling back. However, investment professional Jim Cramer says these dips are a blessing and an opportunity to buy more of a successful company at a discount. So even though the markets are red, might be a good day to go in and buy as you're getting great companies at a much better price. All right, now speaking of the stock market, Democrat lawmakers are now looking into the idea of taxing corporations for buying back their own stocks. Companies occasionally buy back shares of their stock from the public in a way to strengthen the company and increase share values. However, it's typically done tax-free since they are buying something back that they once sold themselves. Democrats say this could be an additional area to tax Wall Street to raise money for the programs they want to put in place. All right, now one last interesting piece of news. A new survey among Democrats done by Rasmussen Polling found that 46% of Democrat voters wish that Bernie Sanders were their president and not Joe Biden. Now, this came as a shock to me, but I'd like to hear from you. Who would be a better Democrat president right now with everything going on? Joe Biden or Bernie Sanders? So maybe just write Joe Biden would be better or Bernie Sanders would be better or whoever you think would be a better president right now. Just go ahead and leave that in the comments. But that poll came out today. And I got to admit, I found it to be very interesting, and so I wanted to share that with my community. All right, now this is my update for today. Also, as a way of saying thank you for helping get my community. So anyway, as I let you go, I want to remind you that you are amazing. I really, really believe that. And I appreciate you being in my community. And I'll see you on the next video.